Hi, I'm Elle and welcome back to my channel. I'm not sure if you can tell by the stack of books I have next to me, but today I wanted to rank book adaptations to TV or film. So I thought this would be fun because it combines my two favorite things, movies and books, and I have strong opinions on adaptations. So I tried to compile a pretty large list, especially of like pretty popular ones that you see on like TikTok or YouTube or whatever. So I wanted to go through a lot of those, but if I miss any, I'm happy to do a part two because this was so fun. I feel like these are some of the best like TV shows and movies out there. Like the more I was like, oh, this and this and this, I'm like, these are all my favorite shows and movies. So I found this a lot of fun. Let me know what you think and if you disagree with my ranking. But also, this is purely off vibes. No, well, not completely just vibes. I have a couple criterias for this. One, if the book's really good, I expect the movie or TV show to be on a similar level. So it's like, how did it measure up in comparison to the book? And then also, I understand books and film or shows are like very different formats. So I'm not looking for something to be exactly the same as the book or completely accurate. I do like when they do that if possible, but truly, I take it with a grain of salt when I'm watching something. I think of the show or the movie as like a completely different entity that's basically taking the story from the book. So that's kind of how I'm able to like enjoy these even if they're not like completely the same as the book. But I was gonna go from my least favorite to my favorite. So starting off, I talked about this in my favorites video, but One True Loves. I loved that book. I cried reading it. I felt so much. And then the movie was just like such a letdown. Like, I don't know what was wrong about it. Maybe it was a script, which is ridiculous because if you have such strong source material, I feel like you should be able to adapt that well into a script. That shouldn't be like the weakest part of it because I'm pretty sure Shang-Chi was one of the male leads. And then I think it was Philippa So who plays Eliza in Hamilton. So you have amazing actors. So I don't think it's their fault that it was bad. I think it was more like the writing, which I'm just like, how can you ruin the writing? That was the best part of the book. But so that was a major disappointment to me. That's why, unfortunately, it's on the bottom of the list, even though I did enjoy the book. Next, we have The Hating Game, another book I loved. I think this is like a perfectly executed enemies to lovers. I had so much fun reading the book. And when I saw that they cast Lucy Hale, I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty good because I feel like she really fits the vibe of how I imagine the character to be. But I don't know, maybe it's just like when you see something on a screen, it's cringier than you read it, especially like her Smurf collection. Whew, that was rough. But yeah, the movie was just like kind of mediocre, and I think it's like a pretty good book, so that was pretty disappointing to me. This, in my opinion, is more of a disappointment than the last two, but it's still better than them, but in my opinion, I was expecting so much more from this. It's Shadow and Bone, which, as I said, Six of Crows is one of my favorite series, and Shadow and Bone is in the same universe, but the stories are not that connected. Like, they are separate stories, and in the TV show, they combined the two books, and like the characters like meet, and their like stories are happening at the same time. And I just like Six of Crows should have had its own TV show or movie. Like, it deserved that way more than Shadow and Bone, in my opinion. Like, that is a much better series. I will say I didn't finish the second season. I only watched the first season. And I did like how they cast it. And it's really cool. It's a fun fantasy show. I think we need more fun fantasy shows like that. But it's just like, they just took something that could have been like so perfect. Like, if it was just straight Shadow and Bone, I think it would have been really good because I liked all the Shadow and Bone aspects of it. The Six of Crows characters didn't fit, and they didn't get the story they deserved. So that was very upsetting to me. So yeah, that's why it's unfortunately close to the bottom of this list. Next up, so a lot of these books have like entire series, but I'm not going to go through and rank every Harry Potter book. That would take forever. But I did, if I feel like one part of the series is significantly different quality than the other part, then I like separated them, which is why Insurgent is down here. Divergent, I enjoyed. Insurgent, it's just It was just a disappointment. I'm pretty sure I didn't even rank Allegiant on here because I refused to watch it because Insurgent was so mediocre. But it's disappointing because I love the Divergent series. That was like exactly my vibe growing up. I read Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner. Those were all my things. Oh, I didn't put Maze Runner on this list. It's too late now, whatever. But yeah, so that's why Insurgent pretty low in comparison to the book. I felt the movie was highly mediocre. Next, we have Percy Jackson, the movie. Again, it's better than all the ones that come before it, but it's not that great. They could have done so much more. I think it's Alessandra Dario was her character. I love Percy Jackson. They are just too old. Like, I hated that they took something that like they're supposed to be 12 and it's supposed to be kids and cute and made it like with a bunch of 20-year-olds. Like, it just was not the vibes that it needed to be. The only good thing about that movie was the Lotus Casino scene, which is why it's not on the bottom of the list. And I didn't even bother to put Sea of Monsters on there because it doesn't deserve time to talk about it. Next up, we have To All the Boys I Loved Before. I loved this book, and the movie was very fun. I enjoyed Laura Jean and Peter Kavinsky. This was before I found Noah Centineo cringy. I thought they were really cute in the movie, and I think it was like pretty accurate to the book, besides the fact that they started to bring what happened in the second book into the first movie, which I thought was super unnecessary. But other than that, it was really cute. I really enjoyed it. It just, I think the ones ahead of it were better. Next, we have Divergent. Again, I really enjoyed this. Theo James is the best part of this movie, and his and Shailene Woodley's chemistry is so good. And honestly, I just rewatched the movie, but I read the book so long ago. I'm not really sure how accurate it was to it. I just remember I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like an obsession the same way that Hunger Games was for me when it came out. It was just like, it was good. It has a stacked cast though. Like, looking back, we got Miles Teller, Ansel Elgort, rip. We have Fitz from Scandal, King. We have Rose from Titanic. Like, literally they got everyone from it. So it's good. It's up there. I just think there are other adaptations that are better than it. Next, we have Little Fires Everywhere. I love this book. Honestly, I should have put it on my favorites. I enjoyed this book so much. I really like the author. I've tried to read some of her other books too, and I think she's a really good author. I saw Reese Witherspoon, her book club, was adapting it, and I was super excited because she was starring it, and then Kerry Washington was starring it. And I'm like, they're amazing. This is going to be amazing. And it was like decent, but again, in comparison to the book was just so much better, and they changed some things that I just didn't think really needed to be changed. Like, I understand, again, if it's visual, you're gonna change the story around, and you can't like have as much description as you do in books, so you have to create new scenes and stuff like that. But they completely changed the ending, and I don't understand why. Like, it was completely unnecessary. And again, the show by itself, I would have completely enjoyed if I hadn't read the book. And I just knew that it could have been better than what it was. So that's why, unfortunately, it's on the lower end of the list. Next, we have The Summer I Turned Pretty. I love this show. I loved the book too. I think that they cast it so well. I love the soundtrack of it. I think it's so fun. It's the perfect summer vibes. I honestly we need more shows like it. It's just like cute teen romance. It gives me the same vibes I felt reading the books. I just think there's better adaptations out there, but I really enjoyed this one still. Next, we have Percy Jackson, the show. Again, I really enjoy this. It is miles ahead of the movie, and I think they cast it really well. It's super cute. Again, it has similar vibes to what I felt when reading it. I thought it was pretty accurate to the book, honestly. There were some changes. Again, why it's not at the top of the list, the Lotus Casino scene was horrible. If they had taken that from the movie and put it in the show, I think the show would have been significantly better. But like, the whole scene they're supposed to be get wrapped up and like completely lose track of time. Annabeth knows exactly what's going on, and her and Percy aren't like swept away, and they don't even get like checked into the hotel. They don't get to play in the games. They're supposed to be this huge water park and like slide and all this, and they just like completely took it out. And I don't understand the reasoning behind, like, I guess they wanted to save time for other stuff. I understand a lot of the other changes they made in the show, and I agree with them, but that one really bothered me the most, I'd say. On top of the fact that they just had them miss the solstice. Like, there was no reason for that to happen. whatever. I loved the way that they depicted the underworld though. I thought that was so cool. I really enjoyed Camp Half-Blood. It really was exactly like how I imagined in my head. I felt like I loved how they did the cabins. I love the capture the flag episode. It's so fun. So I really do think there's like great aspects of the show, and I have a feeling the more seasons they do, the better it's gonna get. But I just had a couple problems. Also, Annabeth overseeing Luke's betrayal was just no thanks. That just didn't do it for me. Next up, we have Hunger Games, and I did separate Hunger Games and Catching Fire because Hunger Games I really, really enjoyed, but Catching Fire is in a different tier. Hunger Games, again, Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, Liam Hemsworth, amazing. Liam Hemsworth plays his character in real life. After what he did to Miley, I'm like, good. I hate Gail. I love PETA. And Josh Hutcherson, the slow burn that they do in the book, it's so cute. There are some kind of significant changes to the books, but as far as quality, I feel like the quality is like pretty similar. Next, we have Lessons in Chemistry, and I haven't finished the last 2 episodes, so take this with a grain of salt. But I really enjoyed the show. Again, I loved the book. One of my top reads of last year. I gave it 5 stars. The show I really enjoyed too. And there's like some things that I don't think translate as well on screen, so it's like hard to feel the exact same feelings I felt while reading the book. But I really like Brie Larson. She's like exactly how I imagined the main character. I think she does a great job. I like that Harriet has a larger role in this, and I love, she's from How to Get Away with Murder, so I love that she's in it. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good adaptation. I don't think it's like significantly better or does anything different than the book that, yeah, puts it to the next level, you know? Next, we have Perks of Being a Wallflower. I actually haven't read the book, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking on it, but I will be. I loved the movie. I couldn't read the book after watching the movie. That wrecked me. Like, that is something that I'm like, I can watch that maybe once every 10 years because it will throw me into a spiral. It is so fucking sad. But again, it's perfectly cast. Logan Lerman is amazing. I love that Nina Dobrev is in it. It like deals with some really hard topics, and I feel like it does a pretty good job. And also like the revelation is literally soul crushing at the end of it. Again, I can't speak too much on it because I didn't read the book, but as far as like quality wise, I do think this is a pretty amazing movie. Next, I talked about this a little in my favorites, but Sharp Objects, an amazing show. I really think it's interesting how little dialogue they have in the show. There's not a lot of dialogue in the book, but usually you're not able to get away with that. I think the director said he literally didn't want to put any dialogue in it, and they had to fight to get a good amount. But I think it's like such a cinematic show. Like, it's beautifully shot, and you're able to get across a lot of the emotions from the books from the cinematography and not having dialogue. And I do think dialogue a lot of times can be a little like overused, and it's filmmakers get a little lazy, and show don't tell is one of the main things you learn, and that is not what they do. They kind of like underestimate the intelligence of their viewership. So I really like Sharp Objects for this. Again, I was saying Amy Adams, Sydney Sweeney, amazing. The mom is amazing. You have Beth from Little Women in it, amazing. You still have the same shock factor at the ending. You still have a good amount of build up in the mystery thriller side of it. And it's like pretty close to how I imagined it, especially visually. So I think this is definitely up there. Great adaptation. Next, we have Daisy Jones and the Six. As again, I was saying in my favorites video, I loved this book and I was so excited for this adaptation. You have, again, a stacked cast. So I thought they cast everyone really well. I loved seeing all the songs like come to life on screen. I'm gonna be honest, when I see a song in a book, I skip it because I'm not about to make up a fake melody in my head. So it was like I was reading the songs or hearing them for the first time. I was hearing them for the first time. So I loved that aspect of it. I literally listened to that album still. It's so good. I loved the drama. I loved the production design, the costuming. it's the vibes of it are amazing. The only thing that's like kind of odd is why they switched it to 20 years in the future for the interview instead of 40. I don't really understand why they did that. And Suki Waterhouse, they just did her so dirty in the interview. Like, she just looks weird. I don't know. I don't like how they aged the characters that much. I don't think they did the best job in that aspect of it. But other than that, this show was like amazing. Next, we have Big Little Lies. Again, maybe I shouldn't speak on this because I have not read the book, but it's on my TBR. I do want to read the book because I like the show so much. And I think the cast of the show is amazing. I think, again, like the thriller aspect of it, this is what Little Fires Everywhere should have been. It should have been an HBO, I think. I think Little Fires Everywhere was on Hulu, which is just, it's a different quality, I feel like, in HBO does what Sharp Objects does, and it's a show don't tell, whereas they just have too much dialogue, I think, in Little Fires Everywhere. But Big Little Lies, I very much enjoyed. I will go back and read the book so I can speak more on this, but it's up there just because I think the quality of the show is so good. Next, we have Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. I loved this. I was so excited when this book came out because, again, growing up, I loved The Hunger Games. That was such a fun series. I loved seeing the movies come out. I saw them all in theaters. And so when this book came out, I, of course, had to read it. I really enjoyed it. I love getting a villain's backstory. I think that's always so fun. And I was super excited for the movie, and I think they did an amazing job. I think they cast so well. Oh my God. I never thought I'd see so many people sipping over Coriolanus Snow. When I was reading the book, I read it as Cornelius because anything that takes me too long, I'm just going to skip over in my head, and I'm going to create an easier word. So in my head, he's Cornelius Snow. Rachel Ziegler, and it was amazing. Her voice is unmatched. And again, she's exactly what I imagined Lucy Gray to be. I can't remember too many differences in the movie versus the book. I think they adapted it pretty perfectly. There's no glaring differences to me. The betrayal of Snow hit just as hard. 10 out of 10. And I'm usually anti long movies, but I do understand why they made this long, and it's because they fit basically everything that happened in the book in there. Next, we have Catching Fire. While A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes might be a little higher quality, I had to put Catching Fire up just for the vibes. The vibes of Catching Fire are unmatched. This was the best in the whole series, and none of the other movies even come close. Like Finnick in this, just like the whole concept of the clock, it was honestly hard for me to see in my head the arena, and so I loved the way that they did it visually. I loved the setting of this. I think all the actors did an amazing job. Yeah, this is a great adaptation, and I yearly have to rewatch this movie because I enjoy it so much. 10 out of 10. Again, I like all these adaptations so much that it's like hard for me to rank them, and just because it's below doesn't mean I don't like it. I just think the other ones are better, subjectively. I don't know. These are all my opinions. But next we have Emma. I love this so much. As I was saying, this is one of my favorite books, and I read the book because I liked the movie so much. I think Anya Taylor-Joy does an amazing job in it. Again, this is what convinced me to read the book. Like, I thought it was so good. I love the vibes of this. 10 out of 10. Next, we have Normal People. Oh my God, this show is, it's like reading the book. It puts you through the same hell that you feel reading the book. And it's just, I don't think can watch a single episode without like crying. And they just cast Connell and Marianne so well. Probably because that's who they are in real life too. I want to know what is happening behind the scenes with them so bad. Oh my gosh, when she said that he gave her the necklace in real life, I'm like, come on, let's be so for real. Please just date already. This show was amazing. I honestly can't remember too many differences from the books. To me, it felt like pretty similar, especially in like the way that they moved through the timeline. I think they did an amazing job, and I'm glad they adapted this for show versus a movie, because I do not think this would come across the same if it was just a movie. That's another thing that I feel like is important for adaptations, is knowing what medium you're going to use. Like, I think Percy Jackson is better as a TV show than it is as a movie, because again, you have so much to get through that it's better to be episodic. Whereas something like Catching Fire, I don't know if it would be as interesting if it was an episode format, because you have like, you move so quickly through the story. Next up, we have Bridgerton. This is top tier. Like, we're getting to top tier level. I have very few complaints about these. I again watched the first 2 seasons, and then I went back and read all 8 books. I loved them. I think I literally finished that series in a week. I read a book a day because I was eating it up. I loved it. Honestly, the books are better than the TV show, but what I really liked about the TV show, honestly, I don't even know if I can say that. That's why, like, here you're getting, it's like almost on equal ground. Like, what they did, the books are basically, it's just about the sibling and their love interest. The family doesn't play as huge of a role in the books. So I think they did a really good thing with making it more of an ensemble cast so that you can draw out the story on screen more and make it into something that's a TV show rather than a movie. So I think they did a great job with that. I liked Kate and Anthony's story a little bit more in the books just because Edwina was not as much of a factor in it. And I can't say I love a love triangle with a sister. As I have a sister, I would never put myself in that. And it just like the entire time, like, I love Kate and Anthony so much, but that's just in the back of my mind. Like, how can you do your sister like this? It is just so hard for me. And in the book, that's just like not as much of a factor. So that's one of the reasons why I like the book just a little bit better. But I'm so excited for season 3. I'm so excited to keep going through because I feel like my favorite book was actually Hyacinth's. So I'm like, gotta get to Hyacinth's story. I really like Benedict's though, which is why I'm so sad. He was supposed to be next. And honestly, Colin and Penelope was not my favorite book, but the way that they're like advertising the season, I have a feeling I'm gonna like this season more than I like the book. Which again, if an adaptation can do that, that's pretty amazing. Like, if you could make it better than the book, I'm very impressed. Next, we have Harry Potter. Again, some of these are way better than others, but I couldn't rank them. That could be its own video, be ranking all the Harry Potter movies and books. Let me know if you're interested. I have lots of opinions on this. But again, like, it's just a pretty amazing series. They did what Percy Jackson needed to do with the movies, and they cast young kids and had them grow with the show. And that's just like part of what's so amazing about it, is you feel like you're growing up with these characters and you're watching them go through each year of school, and like, you know, the character development that you see in all of them is so good, and it's just like so heartwarming. Again, there's like some differences in the books and the movies, but for the most part, they stay pretty true to the books and at least the vibes of the books. The only glaring difference is how Dumbledore screams at Harry in the fucking 5th movie. That would have never happened, but I digress. I think this is a pretty amazing TV series, and it's, again, iconic. Like, who hasn't seen Harry Potter? If you haven't seen Harry Potter, that is pretty rare, I feel like. So this is just like a cultural phenomenon. This close to the top, but in my opinion, I have things that I enjoy more than this. Next up, we have Pride and Prejudice. It's just so amazing. There's different adaptations, but 2007 movie is where my favorite lies. I just think Keira Knightley, that's the role she was born to play. Mr. Darcy is so good in that. Just like the close up on the hands, the scene in the rain, like every part of it is just so amazing. And I went through and read the book and I still liked the movie better. So I think that this is a great adaptation because you're able to take something that, you know, like, I don't know how many people have actually read Pride and Prejudice and make it more like tangible for viewers and something that literally is universally loved. So I think this is an amazing adaptation. Again, I touched on this in my favorites, but we have Gone Girl. This is just so good. As I said, I think I like the movie better than the book. I just think Ben Affleck was born to play that role. He literally does it so perfectly, and Rosamund Pike is Amy. Like, she is so good at it. Her monologue, her cool girl monologue, lives in my head rent-free. I literally think about that once a week. It's so perfectly delivered. She is just so amazing in that. Literally, I think it's better than the book. I love that movie so much. It's 10 out of 10 in my opinion. And now we've gone into the top of the list, my all-time favorite adaptation, Little Women. I may not be able to speak on this because, once again, I have not read the book. There's only a few of these. I try to choose ones that I had more knowledge on, but I just like Little Women is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, so I couldn't not include it. But I'm sorry, the lighting has changed. I don't know what's going on outside. Again, it's a stacked cast. Florence Pugh was made to play Amy. Saoirse Ronan was made to play Jo. And it just, the like juxtaposition of the two of them, and then Emma Watson and her, like, just because my dreams are different than yours, Jo. I literally, it doesn't make them any less important. I could quote this, like, so many lines for this movie. Again, Florence Pugh's monologue about being a woman. It's just, it's so good. And it shows Joe's monologue about being lonely. Like, I could cry just thinking about it. It is so good. And I know people don't love that they changed up the timeline of it. And maybe if I read the book, I would have stronger opinions on it. But I do love kind of a mixed up timeline. Like, in books, I really enjoy reading in like the past and present at the same time. And like you go through and you kind of have to piece it together yourself. Like, I personally really enjoy that. And I love this movie so much. I have to watch it at least once a year. It's perfect to me. And maybe now that I've said this, I will go back and read the book. That wraps up my favorite book adaptations. So let me know if you have thought of any that I've missed or have different opinions on what should be at the top of the list. But thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe.